Hello and welcome to our short briefing session on cybersecurity for childcare providers. This isn't about needing to be a tech expert, but instead is about developing a handful of good habits that will keep your systems and your data safe. So the reason we wanted to do this comes from a news story that was published in the autumn of last year, 2025. A large nursery chain was a victim of a cyber attack. So their systems were hacked into and personal information about the children was stolen and they were held to ransom over it. The hackers were basically saying, if you want your information back, you're going to have to pay us. Now the story reports that the hackers didn't care that this was information belonging to children and that it was extremely upsetting. They just said they were doing it for the money and that was it. And we don't want other settings to be in a similar position. So what does a cyber attack actually look like? Well, it could be one of these things here. Firstly, there's ransomware. This is where information or data is stolen or locked and you aren't able to access it. You're then held to ransom over it and sent a message demanding payment in order to restore it. Then there's phishing emails. These are emails that look completely genuine and appear to be from someone or somewhere official, such as Ofsted, HMRC, or one of your regular suppliers or clients. And in the email, you'll be asked to click on a link or provide login details. And this can lead to details being stolen and systems being hacked. And then thirdly, there's data exposure. And this is where photos or personal data or details are shared via something like WhatsApp and end up being seen by somebody who shouldn't be seeing it. So why does this matter? So there are a number of myths around cybersecurity, but the reality is very different and it's not actually as scary as it sounds. So firstly, there's the myth that actually hackers only target big companies. But the reality is attacks are automated and it's easy targets that get hit. Hackers don't care what size organisation you are, whether you're big or whether you employ just a couple of people. If you're an easy target, that's what they want. Then there's the myth that you need to be technical. Actually, you don't. Most breaches involve ordinary human mistakes, and hopefully through this briefing session, we'll show you that you don't need to be technical to be cyber secure. Some people think, well, it would never happen to us, but you hold some of the most sensitive data that exists, and that can sort of be really valuable to somebody who might want to hold you ransom over it. And cyber attacks can happen to anybody. And then some people think, well, it's too complicated to fix. Actually, it isn't. Just a few good habits will fix most things and keep you secure. So we've come up with an acronym to help remember those good habits that you need. So the acronym is PUBLIC. So there's P for passwords. It's important to get them right. U for updates. Updates help you stay current. B for backups to help protect your data. L is for lists. It's important to know your stuff. I is for informed. Being informed helps you stay protected. And C is about culture, because this is all about developing a safe culture and having teams that understand the rules and the guidelines around staying safe when it comes to cybersecurity. So we're going to cover each letter of public in this session, and this is what we're going to talk about. Firstly, we're going to look at strong, unique passwords and having two-factor authentication on email and key systems. We're going to look at having automatic updates turned on for all devices. We're going to go over backups and the need to test those occasionally. We'll look at removing access to sort of email and other systems on the day that somebody leaves. We'll look at trustworthy current information sources. And we'll look at the need for having staff who pause before clicking on a link and also having a plan in place if something does go wrong. So we'll start with P for passwords. So there are 4 important steps for passwords. Firstly, don't reuse passwords, but have different passwords for different accounts and different systems. Now, you wouldn't have the same key for all the doors in your house, or you wouldn't have the same key for your car as you would your front door. If you did and someone stole your car key, they could also break into your house. And it's the same with passwords. If you have the same password for everything, if it's stolen, hackers have access to everything. But if you have different passwords and say your email password is stolen, then all the hackers have access to is your email, and all your other systems and your data stay safe. 2, use a passphrase and not a complicated jumble of letters, numbers and characters. 3 or 4 random words create strong passwords that are hard to crack. 3, make sure you have 2-factor authentication on your email and any systems that hold sensitive information. And just this step alone stops a lot of accounts being hacked. And finally 4, having lots of different passwords to remember can be difficult. So you should use a password manager to help, such as Bitwarden or 1Password. And we're going to look at steps 2, 3 and 4 in more detail shortly. So with passwords, length is key, and basically the longer the password, the better and the more secure it is. And as you can see here, the time to crack the password increases significantly with length. So if you've got a password that's just 7 characters long, actually that's really quick and easy for someone to crack, and that could take less than 1 second. By adding just 1 character, so you've got a password that's now 8 characters, that takes that less than 1 second to around about 5 hours. Add another character, so now your password is 9 characters, and it can take around 5 days to crack. So it's quite significantly more than the less than 1 second just by adding 2 characters. If you move up to 10 characters, then it can take about 4 months. 11 characters, about 10 years, which is a lot longer. But if you go to 12 characters, that can take about 200 years for a computer or someone to crack. So ideally, your password needs to be at least 12 characters long. Now, as I said, it's much better to use 3 or even 4 random words rather than a complicated string of characters like you can see in the first box here. So this sort of password often comes up as a suggestion, and whilst they're really difficult for us to remember, they're actually quite easy for computers to guess. 3 or 4 random words though maximise the length of the password, which we've seen is key, and it also avoids predictability, which there is in the complex strings. So for example, capital letters and characters such as exclamation marks are often in the same place when you use a complex string, and hackers and AI-powered cracking tools know those habits and can breeze through them in seconds. So this is all about having 2-factor authentication, which is really important to set up on your accounts and your systems. So what this is a security method that requires 2 different forms of identification to access an account. So instead of just using a password, it acts like a double check, ensuring that even if someone steals your password, they cannot get in without your second key. So step 1 is your password, and step 2 involves your phone and is either getting a code or notification sent to it, having an authenticator app, or using Face ID or fingerprint scanning. So with 2-factor authentication, if a hacker steals your password, they can't do anything unless they've also got your mobile phone as well. So to help remember all your passwords, it's a good idea to have a password manager, which acts as a bit of a digital keyring. And you then only need to remember the password to the password manager. The password manager can create, remember, and type in passwords for you. Now, web browsers such as Chrome have password managers built into them, and they're okay for everyday use, but really sensitive information, you should use a standalone manager. So to help remember all your passwords, it's a good idea to have a password manager, and you then only need to remember the password to the password manager. And the password manager can create, remember, and type in passwords for you. So web browsers like Chrome have password managers built into them, and they're okay for everyday use, but for really sensitive or important information, you could use a standalone manager. And some reputable brands are Bitwarden, 1Password and Dashlane. And finally, it's important to make sure that it works on all of your devices, including computers and also mobile phones as well. U is for updates. Now, updates aren't just there to annoy us. They always seem to happen at the least convenient time, but they are the single most effective way to stop hackers getting into holes in your system. The updates, in effect, plug or seal up those holes. So 4 important things to sort of remember about updates. Firstly, set them and forget them. If you have the option for automatic updates, make sure that that is on, as updates will then automatically happen without you needing to remember anything. 2, Windows. This usually tries to update itself, but often needs you to restart your device to finish the job, and it's important that you do that as soon as you can in order to complete the update. 3 is antivirus. That's a digital security program designed to protect your devices from harmful software. It constantly monitors your system to detect, block and remove any cyber threats before they can damage your files, steal your data or slow down your device. So it's important to have it on your systems. Now, Windows Defender is good enough and is built into Windows, and it usually updates when Windows does. You can check it manually though. Just click on the small shield icon in your taskbar, which should be on the bottom right of your screen. And finally, 4 is for all things Android and Mac. So don't ignore any update notifications that you get on any Android or Mac device. When you get one, apply it straight away. So B is for backups. So a backup is a copy of your data. So if something happens to it, you have another copy that you can use. And we recommend the rule of 3. So you should have 3 copies of your data in 2 different formats or locations, and 1 stored either off-site or in the cloud. And if you can't do that, a weekly backup to an external drive that's stored off the premises is better than having no backup at all. You do need to remember to test it occasionally though, because a backup that you've never tested might not work. So L is for lists. So you need to make a list so you know what you have and what to do if something goes wrong. So first of all, just list all your devices. So that's every device that you allow on your network, and you need to be thinking, are they secure? Do you know where they are? Do you know what's on them? And do you know who can access them? So you need to include your internet router and also any device that can access the internet. You then need to make an action plan and have a plan in place for if something goes wrong. So you need to be thinking about, well, who would you call if something went wrong? And you need to make sure that you cover different scenarios, such as a data breach, unintended sharing, or if a device gets lost. And then you need to know your data. Do you know where everything's stored? Have you got sensitive data separate and also password protected? You need to think about controlling access as well. Now, not everybody in your organisation needs to have access to everything. For example, early years and play practitioners don't need access to the payroll data. So make sure you only give people access to the data and the systems that they need for their role and nothing else. Now, when somebody leaves, make sure that you revoke their access to email accounts and any other systems on the same day. Don't wait a few days or even weeks. And this is actually one of the most commonly missed steps in small settings. Also need to make sure that you protect information and communications containing children's details. So review privacy settings on social media and make sure that relevant things are password protected. I is for informed. So make sure that staff are informed about cybersecurity and can recognise phishing. And the stop habit is a good one to develop. So when you get an email, before clicking on any link or giving any account details, pause for a few seconds and think stop. So S is for suspicious. Were you expecting this email? Does it arrive out of nowhere or from someone that you don't recognise? T is for the sender. Check the actual email address, not just the display name. So Ofsted with an address ending at gmail.com is not going to be from Ofsted. O is for O, urgency. Phishing emails create a sort of sense of fear or pressure, like act now, account suspended, HMRC notice. They're all hallmarks of phishing. And P is point the cursor. Hover over any link before clicking. The real destination will appear in the bottom of the browser. And does that match what you're expecting? So I is for informed, and there are lots of really useful resources around cybersecurity and staying safe, all of which are free, so do check these out. So there's the National Cybersecurity Centre, which has some really useful, simple guidance documents for small organisations and early year settings. There's the Information Commissioner's Office. They can give advice on data protection, GDPR, and it's also where you would go if you needed to report a data breach. There's Action Fraud, where you can report cybercrime, and Cyber Essentials, which is a UK government-backed certification scheme. Finally, C is for culture. So cybersecurity is about creating a safe culture and requires a team effort. It's everyone's responsibility. Staff need to be alert, follow your guidelines, and feel able to report any concerns promptly, and that will help keep your setting safe. So human error is one of the most common causes of security incidents, and as it says here, even the most tech-savvy people click the wrong link sometimes. So it's important to have a culture where staff feel confident and safe to report things, rather than a culture where they are scared and try to hide things. If they do, then this gives hackers more time to do more damage. Reporting straight away can limit the damage. So if something goes wrong, what do you do? Well, firstly, don't panic and don't pay. Payment doesn't always guarantee recovery. Instead, disconnect the affected device from the internet and call Action Fraud immediately. And on step 2 here, we can see Action Fraud's contact details and how to get in touch with them. You need to notify the ICO if there's a personal sort of data breach involved, and also tell your staff and families if necessary. So this brings us back to our acronym and the good habits it's important to develop. So we've looked at P for passwords and the importance of getting them right. We've looked at U for updates. We've looked at B for backups, L for lists, I for informed, and C for culture. So this brings the session to an end. Hopefully it's helped you to understand that it's not about being an expert in technology. It's just about these 6 things on the slide here. So firstly, strong unique passwords and 2-factor authentication on email and key systems. Secondly, automatic updates turned on for all devices. Thirdly, a backup that gets tested occasionally. Number 4, access removed on the day that someone leaves. Number 5, trustworthy current information and sources. And lastly, staff who pause before clicking a link, and you having a plan if something goes wrong. Thank you for attending the session today. If you do want more information, then do check out the Padlet board on our website, which has got lots and lots of information on cybersecurity on it.